If you think you can stand through all of that, I highly doubt it. You'll want to sit down. All right, fabulous. And thank you very much. Welcome to the first mobile marketing meetup for 2016. We were oversubscribed for tonight, so we're also going to be live streaming. So just to remind the speakers who are going to be presenting tonight to make sure you stand right here in front of the microphone so that the World Wide Web and the billions of people who are going to be watching this can hear your dulcet tones. So thank you once again. We started this event pretty much this date last year, so we've been going for 12 months. We're now at over 930 members in Sydney alone, so thank you very much. A round of applause to me, I guess. Halfway through last year, we also started down in Melbourne, and we've got almost 270 members down there as well. As you know, they're a bit slow off the mark, but we'll get there. We've got a lot of things happening this year, but before I do that, I wanted to just thank our presenting partner, Xpand, of which you're in their amazing office here. So a big thanks to Nick and the team from Xpand. And also to the suppliers of the pizzas tonight and my employers for the last 18 months, PocketMath. Actually, this marks the last meetup that PocketMath will be involved with because I'm leaving the company after next week. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening this year and an announcement in the next 2 weeks as to where I'm going and what I'm doing. But PocketMath has been a fantastic company, and if you guys want to know anything about self-serve, transparent, no minimums, no commitments, RTB, DSP, whatever that means, come up and talk to me. So next event is going to be held in Moby's office. So Moby are going to be hosting us, and we're going to be determining a theme in the next couple of weeks. It's next last Thursday of the month, which is the 31st of March, and we'll be also bringing on another partner for that event, which we'll announce on the night. Now, who knows what this is? Anybody? First up. Vivid. Congratulations, you get a book, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So yes, that is Vivid. Well done. Friday, 10th of June, I'm running an event as a part of Vivid. It's going to be called Marketing in the Age of Mobile. We have these amazing companies which are going to be involved and talking about how they are bringing new and different marketing and business models to the mobile phone and the mobile ecosystem. Unlocked, which is anyone who knows Unlocked? Awesome, yes. How does it work, Nico? You pay your phone bill by being exposed to an ad. Nice one. Facebook, anyone? Yeah, you know. Uber, The Iconic, and Tribe. We're going to be talking about different business models and how marketing is evolving in this age of the mobile device. It's presented in partnership with Yahoo, and we're looking to really bring this out into more of a mainstream, get it out into the audiences that are coming to events like Vivid to really get the idea of where mobile is going. So tonight we're going to be talking about 2016. We've got 4 different speakers, all from 4 different areas of the mobile marketing ecosystem, and they're going to be giving us their take on where we're going this year. Is 2016 the year of the mobile? What do they think? Where are the trends? We're going to be hearing from e-commerce. We're going to be hearing from people in the performance space. But first up, we've got Steve Malloy, and he's going to be telling you about how apps are taking over the world. Please give him a warm round of applause.
So thank you very much. I like talking at these events. I like talking at many different places, all in Asia, in the US. And every time I talk to people, there's always a few things I always sort of find is kind of interesting is there's always something you can learn. There's always something new. And there's always a bigger sort of scale of things. So what I like to talk about is probably from a big, broad perspective. And this was a sort of a promo we did to try to get funding from SBS We didn't actually get the funding. Instead it went to Struggle Street. So that sort of explains the sort of the uphill battle I've been having with trying to, convince tech onto a lot of sort of industries. But this was the promo, and we're actually continuing it through a different method. So how are apps changing the world? More has changed in the last 18 months than the last 18 years. And leading the way are apps. You know the small square on your smartphone? It's not just an app, it's a revolution. It's estimated the global app market will exceed $38 billion by 2015. Recent global figures show there's 30 million mobile internet connections in Australia and nearly 100 million apps being downloaded each month. Just recently, Apple reported the 50 billionth download from its App Store, which has over 1.2 million apps. And they're not just for phones and tablets. They're now being designed for our televisions, cars, and even clothes. In this series, we set out to find how apps are changing the way we communicate, we educate, and create, and how it's become an essential part of our lives. So we basically are sort of funding it in a different way. And if anyone's actually interested in being involved, we're doing a 6-part documentary, and we're covering different areas like the medical, and show the advances that are happening in that space. And then we're covering gaming and other different industries. So if anyone's interested in getting in touch, we've got some pretty cool companies on board. And basically, I'll start with 79% of people with smartphones wake up and check their apps within 15 minutes, which is probably, I'm one of those people. It's probably the first thing I do in the morning. It's probably the last thing I do at night. There are more mobile devices in the world than people. 91% of the top global brands have an app. Wearable tech, I think there's going to be some huge growth down that path. I think, with the launch of the Apple Watch, even though I think it didn't quite hit the mark from many different sort of areas, I think it did actually achieve the growth in that marketplace. And I think there's going to be a lot of stuff around gamification and points and scoring and stuff like that with friends. And I think there's going to be some very interesting things down that path. Driverless cars, there's 2017, there's going to be a standard that's going to be coming in. I think there's like 5 companies that have all joined together and basically going to have the option of having driverless. That's in 2017. Drones. Drones are a funny one. I sort of wrote about drones in the book. I wrote one where I said the future of apps are drones, and I said there's many other different areas. And someone said, well, you should put in about Amazon as doing a delivery service with drones. And the reason why it doesn't work like that is because if you've got a quadcopter, if just one of the propellers goes, it stuffs up. So basically, and then in terms of the battery life, it's only got about an hour. So there's a lot of functionality sort of issues, but I think drones are going to be used in many other ways. I think the guys over at Facebook, just at the summit over in Spain, they're actually talking about launching a lot of drones on that one. Not Google Glass, but I think a lot of the technology that went into that, I think we're going to see some very interesting things. Quantified self, there's going to be a lot of that sort of area where you're constantly self-checking on everything, whether it's be calories, budget, whether it be, something like just the amount of steps. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be about cures for things. I think it's going to be more about prevention. Then it leads on to big data, which all this information is getting collected at rapid rates. In fact, I heard some study in the last year, we've collected more data in the last year than we have in the entire history. And now it's going to be sort of very interesting for companies. What are they going to use with that data? How is it going to be stored, and what's going to do in terms of having it better for customers and better for then machine learning. I think this is the sort of the future of apps, when it's not just a case of how you're using the app. It's trying to figure out and how you play the game and mapping around that space. Something I talk about is about diving deep, not wide, and I believe mobile is all about experience. And I would much rather an app that's only on 5 people's phones, but they use it 200 times a day, as opposed to having 1 million people. I think it's always the way we do apps. So we've done 38 apps from 2009, and what we sort of found was that we started off from the iPhone and moved to the Android, and then from Windows and stuff like that. And I really made a big point about just getting the user experience correct from the very beginning. User experience is pretty much everything in terms of a good customer experience. There's an interesting point that a lot of times you talk to companies and they say, I don't really get it. I don't really understand Instagram. I say, well, look, 200 million of your customers do. And a lot of people say, but how does it make money? I don't understand how to monetize this. And a good example was with Pizza Hut, which was done very interestingly. They had a tracking device in every single one of their scooters, and all they did was just got the API from that from head office and just made it available in the app. So it's not a particularly massive project, but what it meant was that you could actually track it and see whereabouts your pizza was on the way. Then it also meant that they had the iPad version, which was different, and I think there was one called Pasta or something like Pizza Chef or something like that, and you could actually customize your own pizza, which was sort of a bit of a fun experience. But where they made more profit was back in the days when you used to just order a pizza, you just order just the usual suspects. What this did was then you'd suddenly get extra cheese, you'd extra chili flakes, and chili flakes just cost nothing, and that's an extra $2 or $3, and yet it's just a sprinkle of absolutely nothing. So they're actually making more profit down that path as well. 1 in 4 apps are abandoned after the first use, and 80% of apps are zombie apps. So zombie apps are phone apps that you just get once and they just sit on your phone. I've probably got about 2,000 apps, and I'd say there's probably 20 that I use on a regular basis. And there's a lot of ones I don't know how I downloaded it or why I downloaded it, but it's sort of there, and I haven't really had any need to actually do it. So it is all about experience. So you've got UI, you've got UX, and then you've got the big customer experience that sort of overrides everything. So that's everything from every part of it. It is all about a good experience, good customer experience. There's a book called The Hook. And The Hook is a very interesting one. By the way, guys, I'm trying to run through as much as possible because there's 28 slides, so I'm trying to roll it through. As they said, he's only got 5 minutes. I thought I could do 5 hours maybe, but I think I've got to run it through. So basically, there's a thing called The Hook, and what it was basically how to create engagement. And it's about trigger, action, reward, investment. And what it means by it is that you get a push notification on. That's actually your trigger, or it might be an email or something like that. And then from receiving the push notification, then suddenly there's an action, which means like you got to sign in or you got to do something. Then there's a reward. You've received 5 stars, or you received 5 points or 50 points or something like that. And then suddenly then you've received a sort of like a reward from that, and like an investment. Suddenly now you've got another video which you didn't have the experience before, or there's another level that's just been unlocked. And this goes into a whole range about psychology and trying to get people to use the app every single day, not only using it every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. And you'll notice with apps like Facebook, they do a very good job of that. You'll find when you start to travel, it basically, if you kill the app, it basically can't really detect whereabouts you are, because it can only track once you've actually got the sort of the app open. So what it does is it will give you a notification. It'll say something like your page has just had 6 views or something totally irrelevant. It's just trying to keep your phone open. That's what it's trying to do. It's trying to do it as many times as possible. So these are the apps to watch in 2016. Does anyone know this one, Peach, at all? So Peach is very popular in the US. This is ranked, I think, 120 overall in the US. It's kind of like a sort of a Twitter type sort of function. This is it's quite innovative. I think Twitter's going to have a very bad year this year. There's a lot of competition. Some of the heavyweights in the business have sort of left, and a lot of the advertisers, they've got 140,000 advertisers, but they're losing them. Whereas companies like Instagram has 200,000 people are actually sticking ads on their system, and whereas it was in about 6 months ago, it was around about a couple of hundred. So it's grown a lot.
What makes it different from Twitter? Sorry,
Oh, it's just way more innovative. Like in terms of pictures, and there's video, and there's GIFs and animations and everything. It's slightly similar to like a WeChat, but on another level. Does anyone know this one, Anchor, at all? Does anyone know Anchor? This is going to be a heavyweight. So this only just came out only recently, I'd say about a week ago in Australia. It's very popular in the US. And so what this is like it's kind of like Twitter as well, but it's more audio. So it'll be something like you'll have, like anyone can just make an audio clip. It's called waves, they're called waves. And so you make a little wave, and you might do something like your review on the film, or some recipe, or just anything of interest, and you just throw it out to the public, and you still use hashtags and @symbol and all that sort of stuff. And then basically people make sort of audio replies back to you. So you can start to gain followers and stuff like that. But what's starting to happen now is that people are getting a bit more time poor, and there's so much content that people are starting to run out of sort of time to actually do it. So it's going to be more audio, and people are going to listen to more little sound bites, and if it's boring, you just flick it up like really quickly, and it loads very quickly, and it's a very fast thing. It's very addictive too. Pocket. Does anyone here use Pocket at all? I actually like Pocket. I think it's a great app. And anytime you see a good article or something on social media, and you don't really have time to sort of read it, you just basically add it to Pocket, whether it be on your desktop or your iPad or whatever, and then basically you can sort of read it later on. But there's a key functionality which is quite incredible. It's quite tucked away, where it actually reads you out the article, and you can do different speeds and stuff like that. And it's actually a really good way if you're driving home or whatever, you can read all the articles out for you, which is quite a cool system. So this was an app that we did for Uniden, which was a crash cam. And what this was basically, they've got a device that they sell for maybe a couple of $100, and it sticks up on your dashboard, and it keeps recording and buffers it, and it records for two minutes or whatever, and then buffers it and just keeps going. And I basically said to them, well, can't you just do the same with your phone? Which means that anyone can sort of have the same sort of features. And they said, okay, well, is it possible? So we had to develop the G sensor, which isn't available. You got the accelerometer, obviously, but we had to build that over in a company in the US, and then the other components we did in Sydney. And one of the things that made this quite a successful product, I think to a certain extent, in terms of picking colors for the app icon, 51% of apps are either black or blue. So try to pick something that's a bit more brighter, that shows up really well on the grey background, and a lot of times it's quite light background. So you want something quite punchy, and I like when there's two images coming together, so it's obviously a camera and a sort of a wheel. And also as well, in terms of the user experience, most people kind of like a very simple sort of basis. In terms of any lines, it blocks things in, so strip it all back. Keep it as simple as possible. Try to keep it to 3 choices, I find is one of the key features. There's a book called The Paradox of Choice, and they say when you have too many choices, people actually get very depressed and they don't know what to do. They just get very confused. So many years ago, there was only about 300 professions in the world. Now there's 1.5 million, and suddenly now everyone's a bit confused. Well, what should they be doing? So yeah, in terms of choice, and I also like as well how the fact that it's different when you actually put it on the landscape mode, and also as well, you're using it in a car, so you want it quite chunky and quite easy to press from a function point of view. Also as well, all the stuff, all the settings and all the stuff that you can customize, stick it all there in the little more section and the the settings section. So that's what I like to do, is just literally strip it back as much as possible. I think the biggest problem is people try to add too many features. So this was the book that I wrote, and I've got some copies up here if anyone's interested. And this was something I saw which I thought was was pretty cool. This is Boston Dynamics. They were the guys who did the dog, and now this is the one they've just built. This came out a day ago. I think it's had 4 million hits already. So this is the it's finally found some good advances here, I think, with the stability, and this has a few stumbles. A few good stumbles here. There you go. There's a good stumble here. Here we go. Oh!
Oh, he's found a friend.
Look at this guy. He's very. Oh.
I think he loves his job a little bit too.
It's got no. Here we go. Look at this bit here.
Fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Have you got any videos? Kelly, have you got any videos? No. No. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. All right, awesome. So we're going to have Q&A after we have all four speakers, guys. Oh, shit, bugger, sorry. We're going to have Q&A after all four speakers. Feel free to get yourself a drink whenever you want. Please welcome to the stage Chris Espy from Gruss Media, who's going to be talking about, well, where's mobile marketing headed for 2016. Thank you. Woo-hoo!
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's good to be here. I love these meetups. They're good fun, you know. Don't take anything too seriously here. And I talked at the second one that Michael put on. I was working for Axiom then, which is a company that, like a data company, if anybody knows Axiom, but I left Axiom. So now I'm in the mobile space, and which is better. It's where I want to be. I've been in digital media sales for about 10 years, and I've worked in London and now in Sydney. And I guess I go beyond like my day job, and I'm like really interested in all the trends in marketing and the tech and stuff. So, you know, programmatic advertising and data, and that's what led me to Axiom. So I got out of media sales and went to Axiom because I thought, you know, there was more going on in this sort of data industry. And Axiom bought this company called LiveRamp, which is what I talked about last time when we were here. But now I'm in the mobile space, and I suppose where is mobile marketing headed in 2016? My answer in one line is basically beyond the app economy and into the mainstream. And I sort of think that it's going to be happening, like it's already happening abroad, like overseas, you know, the app economy, like apps are getting big for all, like, you know, there's mobile only companies, there's businesses and marketers, they're putting dollars into apps now. And, you know, when I talk about mobile, there's a lot of different parts of it, but apps for me is a really big part of it. And so I think like overseas it's happening already, and I think 2016 in Australia we are going to see marketing and media start flowing towards apps and more mobile, and then ad budgets to back those investments in owned media. So I think there's a few different forces at play here, and so I'm just going to explain my thoughts about where mobile's headed, and then I'm going to tell you guys about Brust Media, which is a performance mobile company. It's an Australian company, but I'll get onto that. Let me know if I go over my 6 minutes, because I don't want to do that like Steve just did. So basically, I think marketers know that digital audiences have passed the tipping point into mobile. Whether it's social or search has passed the tipping point, or publishing. Globally, we've passed that tipping point from desktop into mobile. Marketers are aware of that now. It's just the dollars haven't flowed over, and the desktop sort of media publishing, ad sales, ad tech space has programmatic advertising has been such a big thing for everybody, but it's starting to settle down now. People are realizing that the tech's all there just to power business outcomes for brands, and it's the desktop space. I think is going to sort of just settle down a bit now, and it's time for things to shift to the mobile, to mobile, as a conversation. You've got desktop as an owned media. That's great, but Rob was saying today that he's at a conference, and they asked how many people in the room think that their desktop experience is better than their mobile experience, and everybody in the whole conference except for one person said their desktop customer experience was better than their mobile. So it's okay, well, everything's shifting to mobile, and we all we're glued to these things, but we're still, the companies are all just concentrating on desktop in terms of owned media and then paid advertising as well. So the whole programmatic advertising landscape, we just had the programmatic conference here in Sydney. I don't think many people would have been speaking too much about mobile, because but we're getting towards, I was there last year, and look, to be honest, I wasn't really impressed by much of it, because no one was talking about data and no one was talking about creative optimization and so on. But this year I heard it was a lot better, and we're talking about business outcomes, and the dust is settling. But I think it's time for things to move to mobile now, and so it's the desktop ad tech space settling down, I think, is part of that. The other thing is with paid, marketers like to put money into owned media. It's if people from the agency side know that owned and earned is sort of paid is a bit of a necessary evil, but your mobile app is the ultimate owned media. It's the new wave. It's gone desktop, mobile web, and now apps, and it's because of what Steve touched on. It's the user experience. You can have the UI is installed onto the actual phone. You look at mobile only companies like Uber and Hotel Tonight and others. Facebook, Twitter. These are pretty much mobile only companies now. They're leading the way, but I think businesses are starting to get their heads around that. The mobile app as an owned media is the next big frontier, and it's happening abroad. Whether it's media like HBO Now or The Guardian or Fast Company or HuffPost, they have apps, and they get audiences on those apps, and those people using those apps get really good experiences. Why would you want to use desktop? Yeah, sure, you use desktop a bit when you're at work, and desktop will stay there. There'll be desktop globally plateaued in 2010. And it's just stayed and it's just going to continue at that. But mobile's gone up it's tablet, smartphones and tablets. So there's this whole world that we haven't even really entered into now in terms of media and advertising and business, where it is mobile first. So I think it's really exciting, and I think some of it's going to happen this year in Australia, but really I think it's going to take a few more years for mainstream media and marketing to realise that apps and the paid media marketing world in mobile is the big thing. It's going to take a few more years, but Brust Media works with. I just said a lot there. Sorry, no one probably kept up with that. But Brust Media is a performance mobile Australian company that just does performance mobile. So it's all we do. We do app install and app engagement campaigns, and we've been doing it for 3 years. So established in 2012, specialists in mobile app marketing. Yeah, and we do it all over the world. We actually, most of our clients are international, and we've been working with some of the biggest apps in gaming, and some of the biggest apps in many, like all sorts of categories. You know, whether it's betting, like Ladbrokes and William Hill, or whether it's HBO Now, or like there's apps all over the world that we drive installs for, and we're integrated with the. I'll get onto that, but I mean locally we work with Domain. Domain are pretty switched on in terms of app marketing. And yeah, a few others. So I was talking about owned media, and marketers love owned media. If you think about it, you have your website, your email database, and your app. So I mean, because of it's the differentiation that you can get from having an app. Like you can have notifications with your database, you can have Touch ID to sign in. You know, you can have a mobile number to sign in. You can use the camera, the accelerometer. All the UX and UI, like you can differentiate your business now because of the power of like what you get from native apps on mobile. So and like Google's deep linking to apps now. So search is Google wants to index the whole app world as well as the whole mobile web world. They want it all to come together. So you get a choice. You can redirect your users from your mobile website to your app, and you can deliver a better experience there. And then you can sign them up, and you get data capture. And at Axiom, it's CRM marketing. That's what Axiom does globally. And for me, the future of one-to-one communication is like email's good, and like everybody talks about how strong email still is, but really it's like it's the app and the push notifications and the data that you can have between your customers through apps. So I just think it's like such a big thing that's happening to the industry, and like not everybody in Australia realizes it yet. So, but I've moved into Brust Media because I wanted to get into this stuff early. So it's only a small company. We've got 5 staff up in Brisbane, and I'm the only person in Sydney. But yeah, just to go back to like some of the tips that we give to marketers that like going into the App Store. So we do burst campaigns, which is you basically you pay for maybe incentivized installs, which is where the user gets a reward for installing the app. But you do a burst of activity, and it basically it drives you up the lists on the App Store. So it's all about getting up the lists on the app stores and then getting the organic downloads that come from that. So burst campaigns on the App Store. There's top new lists. So on Android, you only get you're allowed to be on the top new list for 30 days. So you have to have a plan in place for when you launch your app. Because on day one, you want to start using paid media, which is what we do, on a CPI basis, so cost per install. And there's 2 rates. There's incentivized, which is $1.30 Australian, and then there's non-incent, which is $5 Australian. So you go for the cheap incentivized stuff, and we ramp up a campaign like in the first day of your launch, and then we get you onto the top lists, the top new lists, and then the top category lists in the stores, and then you get all the organic downloads from that. So it works. Like all of our clients. One of the ones I just mentioned to Rob was Macca's, so the prize alarm app that was in Ad News, and we ran a campaign for them, and we contributed a huge amount of installs out of what they got in total, and they actually came and rebooked with us 3 times. So, but we're working with we've been working with Domain for quite a while now, and it gets more interesting. This like burst activity is sort of touching the surface. It gets more interesting once you start doing like more lifetime value, and so we're integrated with like mobile attribution platforms. So the big ones that you might or might not have heard about are going to Kochava, AppsFlyer, Adjust, and Tune. So we're integrated with all of those. So we can run a campaign, and then we know what the app downloaders, app installers do over time, and we can optimize your CPI buy towards lifetime value, or towards like in-app events that you want. So if it's first transaction or whatever. so that's where it becomes more interesting, because you can't do that stuff in the desktop and the mobile web spaces. Like with apps, you can start working in this like sort of partnership way with your ad partners, and the integration's there. And like, by the way, with Facebook, when you run app install activity on Facebook, you can't do this because the data doesn't go back from Facebook back to you. It's only with the ad network ecosystem in the app game that you can do this. So ranking for phrases is a little bit different. Like we did this research ourselves, and so you want to, when you launch an app, you want to get, it's like SEO and paid search. Like you want to have App Store optimization and ranking for keywords and on the lists, as well as your paid programs. So yeah, these are what the team at Rust Media figured out for ranking for phrases. You need number of downloads, uninstall rate makes a difference, incoming links to the App Store, just like search, number of reviews, average ratings, keyword usage, title, description, and like using video as well. So there's a few nuances to it. It's pretty simple stuff. Like we're not like pretending that we've reinvented anything, but they're just simple tactics that real people, startups and companies can use when they're going to market with apps, and then optimizing. So this is an example. You can set up a campaign with the app attribution that we're integrated with. It's a little bit more tricky than just say Google Analytics setup. And then you run your media campaign with say Rust Media, AdMob, and Pocket Math, and you look at the installs you get, but then you also track through to the events, and then we can optimize because we can get access to, say you're using Tune, we get access to the dashboard, so our team will optimize the whole campaign based on the stuff that's happening in your app. So it's that's it. How long was that?
So to summarize, 2016 is all about apps. You need to make apps, and to download those apps, you need Rust Media. Yeah?
Yeah,
Awesome. Thanks.
There's a lot of companies doing this stuff around the world. Like it's really taken off, but we're the only Australian company that dedicates ourselves to this.
Performance app downloads.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thanks for coming to my event and putting Pocket Math last. Yeah, that won't happen again.
Pocket Math anymore.
So grab yourselves a drink, guys. We're halfway through. We're now welcoming to the stage the lovely and very talented Kelly Slessor from Bantermob, and she's going to be talking about how mobile interacts with and affects our shopping and retail experience. Would that be a good way of...
Around about that.
Around
yeah,
about.
I'll try and make it work
Awesome.
like that.
I first saw Kelly present at an event that Vanessa Hunt from Yahoo put together last year. And it was a fabulous presentation. It got me thinking about how I interact with the mobile device from a purchasing point of view, and also all the talks around beacons and how that's going to sort of work in the retail space, to actually get a lot of the insights that you brought into that presentation that day was really, really good. So I've really been looking forward to Kelly's presentation. So please give her a warm round of applause. Thank you.
No pressure then. So I'll just give you a quick background of me, and I'm going to try and keep this to 6 minutes, but I'm not very good at that because I do talk and talk. So I'll try and cut it down as much as I can. I'm a digital strategist. I specialise in mobile. I've been in the industry now I started my career in British Telecom. I'd say around about 15 years ago, but I've probably been saying that for about 5 or 10, maybe 5 years. I started in British Telecom as a technical product manager, so looking at mobile. Back then we were looking at products where you could basically call someone in a building for free on a mobile phone. It was like rocket science stuff, it was crazy. I then moved to Australia and I worked in a mobile content company, and I don't know if any of you remember that Crazy Frog ringtone. Sorry. Yeah, huge apologies for that. So I was responsible. I made a hell of a lot of money though. I then went on to a mobile agency, one of the first mobile marketing agencies in Australia, called Communicator, which got sucked up by a big agency and organisation and no longer exists as an individual brand. But I ran that for a number of years, and it was at a stage where we had WAP technology. And everything was slow and Facebook didn't exist, and we were trying to do lots of content plays. But what I did get to do then was work with some of the biggest brands in Australia, Diageo, David Jones, and work on some real innovation pieces. So they just chucked money at innovation at that point in time. So we got to do some really cool stuff. But I kind of got to the point where I got a bit bored of doing cool stuff and shiny stuff, and I wanted to do something that was a bit more sustainable. And I also wanted a little bit more work-life balance. So I went off and started my own thing, which is called Banter Mob. And what I do at Banter Mob is I work predominantly in the retail and financial services space and look at how we create real engagement on these things. So it's not about just driving traffic. You know, we're living in a faceless, cold space the majority of our day. We're interacting with our friends in this really impersonal manner, and we're having brands attack us from every single angle at every single minute. How do we create real engagement for brands and retailers specifically? So for years we've talked about, in the industry, as Rob knows, we've talked about, the year of the mobile, and it actually became a bit of a joke, but we weren't allowed to say it in a room. It's like anyone that says that, you're out of the room. So I'm not going to talk about the year of mobile, but what I am going to talk about is the year of mobile conversions, because actually I do believe this year we will start to, and we did start to see it happening last year, we'll start to see real conversions on mobile in terms of purchasing decisions and actually going to the actual purchase. Last year, as a personal project, I decided to read 40,000 App Store reviews because I had so much time on my hands in between running the business and children and things like that. Anyway, out of that 40,000 reviews, I analysed the data, I put it into a big spreadsheet, I looked at keywords, I looked at positive sentiment, negative sentiment, bugs, crashes. I divided it all up and made some pretty graphs and spreadsheets and hours of work, and I came up with two statements. What consumers want from apps: save me time, save me money. All of that work, and those were the two statements that come out. So specifically in the retail space, so I'm not talking gaming or entertainment, but specifically in the retail space, if your app doesn't save someone time or save them money, then you'll find that it will fail quite quickly. Okay, just some quick numbers. So as I said, I work with a lot of retailers. I work with Westfields. I'm a Westfield consultant, so I get to work with their retailers, which is fantastic. I've worked with Woolworths. I've worked with Big W, Glue Store. I redesigned their mobile site. And what we are seeing in this space at the moment is, in Australia, we have the highest penetration of mobile devices pretty much in the world. I think we're like third or fourth behind Asian markets now. But in terms of engagement and interactivity, and we touch and we open our phones about 150 times a day. If that was a target, I would smash that by about 10 o'clock in the morning, I reckon. But in terms of actual conversion rates, we are probably one of the lowest markets in the world, which is insane. Australia, when I talk about conversion rates, I'm talking who here shops on mobile, has shopped on mobile, does shop on mobile. Brilliant. We've got quite a mobile savvy shopping audience. That process of sitting in front of the TV, starting in Harvard Business Review, ending up in shoes, going through to cart, putting it in your cart, looking at it for a minute, going back to first dates or whatever it is on TV, then going back to cart again. Out of the 100 people or whatever it might be that do that, only 0.8% convert on mobile. That's about a third of the percentage of people that convert on desktop. So in Australia, desktop is sitting at around 2.5% conversion rate. And we're sitting at 0.8% for mobile, which when you think about 68% of the traffic, roughly, on retail is coming from mobile devices, that's a pretty insane measurement, or a pretty insane conversion rate, compared to the US, which is 1.2, and the UK, which is 1.5. The average star rating for high street, for stores that have a high street, a physical store presence, the average star rating in the App Store at the moment has just dropped. Before Christmas, it was about 3-star rating. So this is consumer reviews. So when I talk about those consumer reviews that I read last year, this is taking all of that data and looking at what's the average across all of our retail applications out there. For Australia, on the high street, it's a 2.5-star rating, which is insane again, you know. This is the sort of thing that keeps me up at night. It's not my 2-year-old, it's this stuff. But I sit there and I go, how do you change that? You know, a 3-star rating, let me ask a question actually. If you're booking a hotel a weekend away and you go on stays or you go on Airbnb, or restaurant, what's your minimum star rating for booking? You're high. Yeah, high maintenance. Generally, it's a 4. But yet, our apps in this retail space are scoring a 2.5. 3, we say it's okay. 2.5 is below par. It's saying it's not okay, it's not giving us the experience we want, and actually we're having a really bad experience. One of the biggest retailers in Australia just dropped down to a 1.5 last week. It's like that, what's that fashion show? One day you're in, next day you're out. Project Runway. There you go. Anyway, I digress. But just to prove that this stuff is working, last year the Alibaba one-day single sale, $9.4 billion was done on mobile. In total, across the piece, it was $14 billion that they did in that one-day sale, which is a crazy, crazy number. But 9.4 of that, so 69% of that was done in mobile. So this stuff does actually work when we do it right. And that's one of the issues we've got here, is the poor experience that we're delivering on mobile. How am I doing for time? And I'll give you an example of this poor experience. So this is a retailer. And this is one that I screenshotted today. So, okay, I mean, lists are out. Lists are, so if you have to put a list on your mobile app or your mobile website, there's something really intuitive about lists. We're taking that desktop experience and we're trying to feed it into this mobile device. So I click on it and I go, okay, I clicked on 25% off because I wanted to save money today. And that didn't do anything, that just sat there. So then I went, okay, well, I'll shop women. And it asked me for my size. I'm in between sizes, I don't know. I'm not ready to give that information. I haven't even decided what I want to buy. I don't even know if this is about me. It could be about, my husband, my kids, or something else. But it's already, and I'm not, clearly not, that's underlined an A. Anyway, we'll move on. But then, when I did select my size, this is what came up. This is one of the biggest retailers in Australia. And we wonder why we're getting a 2.5 or a 1.5. There's an image missing for your size, whatever it was that I clicked on.
Is it mine or DJ's?
Sorry? I can't say. That would be terrible. But I'm sure you can all look on your phones for the biggest and see which one it was. Of the top 100 Australian online retailers, only 40% of them have a mobile application. Now, I'm actually not an advocate for mobile applications, although we do know that in retail, the conversion rate is double on mobile applications than it is on mobile web. However, for me, I've got a little analogy I use. A mobile application for a retailer is like building a Westfields or a Centre Group out in the middle of nowhere, Dubbo, I don't know, just because someone's talking about Dubbo today, out in the middle of nowhere and putting one store in there and then expecting people to drive all the way there, find it, purchase something and then drive all the way home again. The App Store is so busy and so overpopulated and so, the quality of apps is getting so high at the moment. To put a retail app in there just for the purpose of having a retail app, someone asked me the other week, a big retailer said, should we get an app? And I said, no, don't. Because you'll do what a lot of other people have done. You'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on developing this app. Then you'll realise that actually you've got to promote this app because there's hundreds of thousands of apps in there competing for the space. Then you'll realise you can't afford to invest in the team to do that and to build it. Then you'll have bugs and crashes and things like that. And the guy just looks at me, okay, I get it. All right, I'm going to build it out. Let's just work on getting your mobile site right, because you've already got traffic coming there. Standout number one best practice at the moment is ASOS, and there's a number of reasons for that, but if you read through the App Store reviews, it's simple, it's easy to use, it's intuitive, it's logical, you don't have to, there's no lists in there, you know. They've moved from doing individual pieces, like I would like to buy a shirt, because actually we don't shop like that anymore, to it's date night, I want to buy an outfit for date night, or I'm going to a barbecue, or I'm going to the rugby, I want to buy something for that. So they're moving away from this list-based mentality that we have when it comes to desktop, and they're moving to a more intuitive user flow. Lots of improvements to be made there, but you know, at 5-star rating at 239 people, that's not bad going. What next? So for 2000, how am I doing? Like 1 minute left. For this year, what we're seeing at the moment is huge investment in I need it now. So on-demand services. Last year was about $60 billion invested in on-demand services, and we're seeing that in retail. So logistics and shopping. I think there was something like 28 million in Ship It that was invested in Ship It last year. Don't quote me on that. It was around about that. They're having problems in the logistical side because the legacy systems of retailers can't plug straight into the fulfillment, which is why when you go, I want that pair of shoes, and you click on it and either they don't have it or you can't get it, or you know it's going to take 10 weeks to get to you, and then you go, it's easier going overseas. So there's a lot of investment going into this. I need it, I want it, and I want it now. We're seeing that in the US, and we're beginning to see that funnel through into Australia as well. Next, coming up for the next year, the bit that I suppose excites me the most, I am half marketing and half geek, is artificial intelligence. And I don't for 1 minute believe that artificial intelligence will replace the real physical interaction that we get from humans and that emotional interaction, but I think it can cut down some of our time within application and on mobile device, which is the most important thing in terms of responding to us. So North Face developed an application with IBM Watson last year, which basically when you go to the North Face site, it asks you intelligent questions about where you're going, what time of year, if you're going to Japan skiing, and then it starts to serve you intelligent information based on those questions. I think we will only see that grow this year, and the level of intelligence from these bots and from the artificial intelligence will just grow and basically help us to shop quicker and shop, you know, and spend more money online, and it will help increase our basket sizes. So that is my prediction, I suppose, for 2016. I hope that
Alrighty. Actually, just go from Ipanema.
The only guy doesn't have a Mac, basically.
I'm Windows, you're Mac. I'm going to set the timer, guys. Here we go.
It's not a Windows phone, is it?
No, it's
okay.
It's I would keep breaking them, so yeah.
Okay, so for our fourth and
Sure, mate.
Microphone, sorry.
Oh, yes.
For our fourth and final speaker for tonight, and thank you everybody, you're doing a really great job. Is everyone right for drinks? Yep. Okay, so it is. We've got the pizzas coming, Nick, in about 10 minutes. Where are you? I maybe he's getting them right now. So we'll probably get a waft of garlic coming over us while Rob is talking. So please be polite.
If you're salivating, I know what it's for. It's okay.
It's the two very unshaven but gorgeous men in white shirts up the front, or the pizza, one or the other. Rob has just started a really interesting company. I'm really happy that he's come down to give us what he thinks mobile's going to do for 2016. As I said, fourth and final speaker. Please give him a round of applause. Rob Hall.
Thanks, guys. So, I mean, we're a creative ad tech company, and I won't go too heavily into what we do. It'll be kind of evident in some of the stuff we're talking about. So, who here has bought a mobile ad? Rob's bought ads, yeah. Some of you trade ad space, yeah. Who's created a mobile ad? Any designers? Yeah, creatives. Who's seen a mobile ad? Right, everyone, good. So what's really interesting is like the stuff that drives our thinking, and I think will lead into, I think other companies are on similar paths as us, is so on desktop, so mobile advertising, we've all seen the charts, like mobile overtakes desktop in terms of time spent, and like, forecast to spend more on mobile and all that stuff. So all the other speakers are kind of saying that too. What's interesting is like the IAB, which is the governing body for Interactive Advertising Bureau. So on desktop, they have something like 27 different ad formats that you can buy, right? So like if mobile advertising is going to be so huge, how many do you think that they have on mobile? Guesses? It's like 6 or something, right? And like maybe 6 or 7, and within that, there's things that like are practically the same, but they're called different things, and the lack of choice is just staggering, really. So what we focus on, and what I think is going to be a big trend for 2016, is just companies like us and others bridging that gap between 6 and 27. Like, so if you work in the advertising industry in some form, the lack of choice you have around what sort of ads you can do on mobile is a real frustration. So really, there's like the medium rectangle and the banner and the pop-up ad and little iterations on that. So I guess like, why is it a problem? Lack of choice is one, because that's kind of annoying, but we think like it's a problem because viewability is low generally on mobile. So you can work like to get higher viewability scores if you select the sites you run on and stuff like that. But I think like again, if this is supposed to be like, we're all here because we believe this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Mobile in general. But like all the key metrics like aren't living up to its potential and its promise quite yet.
It's sliced bread that's going to pay us.
Yeah. Like one day, Things like when the IAB set a definition that a viewable ad is an ad that's in view for 1 second. Like, are we setting the benchmark too low there? Do you know how short 1 second is? It's subliminally burnt into your retina, I guess. But like, are you processing that information? Like, as a creative, like we have a studio and stuff. Like we build ads. Everyone builds ads that have like animations and stuff, and the storyboard could take 3 or 4, 5 seconds, and the IAB are saying that 1 second's enough to get that message across. So like again, we're just setting the bar too low around stuff, and I think ad formats is kind of how we're attacking that problem. Click-through rates high compared to desktop, but kind of low-ish on in general. And the problem here, I guess, as well is like that if you have a cool idea and that cool idea lives in an app or lives on a mobile site or lives in an expandable banner, if you run 1 million impressions, 2,000 people see your cool idea at a click-through rate of 0.2%. So instead of 1 million people that should see the cool idea, again, like the economics of the whole industry are upside down. Like we've got to put the cool ideas to the 1 million people, not to the 0.2% of people that like happen to accidentally click on it. So like 2016 for us, that's just, we just think there's an explosion coming around choice, new types of ad formats, like new shapes, sizes, behaviours, functionalities, all that kind of stuff. And what we do is like, what I think is, so here's an exercise for you guys in your own kind of mind palace. Like, if you were to look at a publishing page or an app, and you locked a bunch of clever people in the room, and you said, come out with like an ecosystem and a proposition for advertising, would you come out with banners and MRECs? That's kind of the question that we're asking. Like, would you say, oh, here's a square box that I'm going to put halfway down a page, knowing that things like viewability and time spent with the ad are important? So like, again, it's just radical overhaul, I think, of what's out there. I'll skip through that too, you know what? I'm going to keep to the 6 minutes, if I can. So I just picked 3 ads 3 types of ad formats that I really like. 2 of them happen to be ours, but that's all right, you can do that. This first one's actually from Celtra though, so I love it, and I think like this is I wish we'd thought of this ad, basically. So this one where basically it sits like on a kind of behind the content, and as you scroll, a viewport opens up, and you see this here. So as you scroll, like it opens up onto the ad, and then you get the ad, and you can do whatever you want with that canvas, and then you scroll out of it. So like it's really like a great user experience. Scroll into an ad, shows the ad, scroll out. I think that's really cool. That's a winner. That's 2016 and beyond type ad. The one for, Jesus, I'm scaring myself here. What's the time to it? 4 seconds. Okay. Might go a little bit over, guys. Sorry. Viewable. This one here is one we made. Like, so we just start off with like, oh, what's the problem? Yeah. Ads get in the way and get accidental clicks. Cool. Why don't you just make the ad like away from where your finger is? So as you're scrolling down the screen, your finger moves from the bottom up. So why build an ad experience that moves away from your finger? And what we do here is like start from the bottom, and as you scroll down the page, you get the ad at the top. And as you scroll up the page, you get the ad at the bottom. And we've reduced bounce rates by like 20%, and the time in views 15 seconds, and viewability is 90%. And like, just thought, oh, I don't want to do one of those boring square ads anymore. Let's build a different type of ad. And that's kind of some of the, I think some of the thinking that will come out this year. And it's not just us. This one's called the second chance. So like, the idea is that as you scroll past an ad on a page, this is classic, right? As you scroll past an ad, the ad's fixed into the page. So once you scroll past it, if you don't click it then, how likely are you to go back up and scroll back up to the top of the page and then click that ad? Like, who goes, I've finished reading Kim Kardashian article now, scroll back up and click that, like that, moisturizer ad that I saw. So it's not going to happen. And we thought, well, that means does an ad have to have one life, or can we give an ad a second chance? And we build stuff like this where as you scroll, the ad will, retract itself into the page, and it's away from, it's away from where you need to be. So new content's here, the ad's discreetly in the corner, but afterwards you could go and click it and do stuff then. So it's an ad plus something extra that, gives you a second chance. Companies like us, Celtras, the publishers themselves, vendors, agency groups, like I think everyone's kind of thinking along these lines. They might have not put it in the same words as us, but 2016, I think, kind of an explosion of different choice and creativity for people. Oh, yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well done on those new creatives.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Look,
I think they work. I'm not sure.
yeah. Well, I look forward to
They do.
finding them in my phone in the next couple of months.
We'll be interrupting your experience in no time.